This is the last in our devotion series on being overcomers. And as I've gone through the series, I've focused on the challenges that we face, temptations, overcoming them, battling back the hard things that come into our lives. But we can get a wrong impression of the Christian life, that it's simply always a battle, and we don't even know what we're fighting for. What is it that God wants to work in our hearts, in our lives? And what we see as we look at the Gospels, as we look at the writings of Paul, is that the Lord wants to flesh out the righteousness of Christ. He's working something in us, and he wants it fleshed out. And it's not simply about battling every challenge. It's about overcoming and being something. I'm going to read from Colossians chapter 3, and we're going to see something of what that new life should look like. This is Paul to the Christians at the church in Colossae. If then you have been raised with Christ, seek the things that are above, where Christ is, seated at the right hand of God. Set your minds on things that are above and not on things that are on earth. For you have died, and your life is hidden with Christ in God. When Christ, who is your life, appears, then you also will appear with glory in him. Put to death, therefore, what is earthly in you: sexual immorality, impurity, passion, evil desires, and covetousness, which is idolatry. And he goes on a little bit later in verse 12, saying not just put to death something, not just put off something, but take on something. Put on then, as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, compassionate hearts, kindness, humility, meekness, patience, bearing with one another, and if anyone has complaint against another, forgiving each other, as the Lord has forgiven you, so you also must forgive. And above all, put on love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony. That's the life that God wants to see fleshed out in his children, in their individual lives, but also in their community. It's not just about keeping ourselves from things which corrupt us. That's the putting off, but it's the putting on of something. And maybe we can think of it in terms of what we wear, our uniform. And this passage got me thinking about the things that we wear and why do we wear them. Why do we wear a tie and a jacket? Why do we wear a polo shirt? Why do we wear a fire-resistant apron? Maybe you never put one on, but some people do. Why do they put it on? Why do people put on a uniform? We wear clothes that are fitting to our position and to our function. Sometimes these are culturally driven, somewhat arbitrary. Here at Aberdeen, as a director, I'm not supposed to wear jeans. I have to wear slacks. Is that necessary? Well, maybe not, but it does indicate something. Some things are practical. At my church down in South County, I have a congregant. He's a welder, so he wears regularly a fire-resistant apron. Your outward appearance should match your position, your role. You need to dress the part. And Paul carries over that image into the Christian life. Yes, we should avoid corrupt and selfish behavior, and outward behavior that doesn't match the inner reality, the work of God in us and through us. These clothes, if you can put it that way, don't match the role, don't match the inner truth. Instead, we should dress according to what God has done and is doing in us. And what is that? Resurrection life. He is making us new. He's conforming us to the character of Christ, which is really always what God intended for humanity, to reflect his glory, his majesty, his purity, his righteousness, his love. That's what God always intended. And that's what we see here in this passage. For you have died, and your life is hidden with Christ in God. When Christ, who is your life, appears, then you also will appear with him in glory. What we have been, sinful, self-centered, corrupt, that's been put to death. As we're connected to Jesus' life, death, and resurrection, that old life's been put to death, just like Jesus was crucified. Hence Paul saying in Galatians chapter 2, verse 20, I have been crucified with Christ. I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. And Paul talks about that again here in verse 1. If then you have been raised with Christ, the new life, seek the things that are above, where Christ is. If you've died and been raised to new life, then live according to that new life. Dress accordingly. That's really the simple message of the Christian life. Not that we do things to earn God's favor. It's already been earned. But God is doing something in us to transform us. And we should live in accordance with the mercy we've been shown. And if we behave badly, something's wrong. We're out of whack with who we really are. Where is your faith? Has Christ done something in your heart? If you're not sure, then ask him, Lord, I need you to change me. But if you've been walking with Christ and struggling, then you need to start saying to yourself, I believe that indeed I've been given new power, a new character, and I need to flesh that out. I need to live in accord with the grace that's been given to me. Believe the gospel moment by moment that you are loved, that you don't need to prove yourself, but that you can give freely to God your obedience because you love him. That's the nature of the Christian life, and that's living the new life. Do you believe it? I pray that you all do. Blessings on you all.